Malik Nabers' pro football career is off to a flaming hot start. Through 4 games, he's totaled 35 receptions, the second most all-time among rookies through 4 games to only Puka Nacua. Those 35 receptions have gone for 386 yards, which ranks second in the league and 6th all-time among rookies through 4 games. He's been incredibly productive in an incredibly dysfunctional environment. The Giants can't run the ball. They're dead last in yards per carry and second to last in rushing success rate. They struggle to produce through the air, too. Daniel Jones continues to disappoint, and the Giants' receiver room lacks depth. But New York's offense is very productive when Malik Nabers is targeted. Take a look at Daniel Jones' numbers when he targets Malik Nabers compared to when he targets anybody else. When targeting Nabers on a per-play basis, Jones is completing 69% of his passes, averaging 7.4 yards per attempt, and has a passer rating of 110.4. But when targeting anybody else, his completion percentage drops to 61%, his average yards per attempt drops to 5.4, and his passer rating drops to a putrid 65.3. Through 4 games, Nabers is single-handedly keeping the Giants' offense afloat. He has a target share of 38% and an intended air yards share of 52%, meaning 38% of Daniel Jones' passes and 52% of his air yards are intended for Nabers. He ranks first among all receivers in target share and second in intended air yards share. That is insane volume for a rookie receiver. To give him that volume, Giants head coach Brian Daboll and his offensive staff move Nabers around a ton. For example, the Cowboys like to let Trevon Diggs play press man on the weak side of single high coverages like cover 3. So early in New York's Thursday night game against Dallas, the Giants put Nabers at the Z spot on the strong side to give him a favorable matchup against Andrew Booth in off coverage. That off coverage look allows Nabers to run a double move sluggo route where he fakes a quick slant before getting vertical. Nabers does a great job of selling the slant, and the fake makes Andrew Booth touch grass. If Jones had hit him in stride here, this would have been a 79-yard touchdown. The Giants will put Nabers at the Z spot on the strong side, they'll put him in the slot, they'll put him in motion. We even saw one play on Thursday night where he ran a sail route from the backfield. New York came out in 12 personnel with 1 running back and 2 tight ends on the field, which prompted the defense to deploy base personnel with an extra linebacker on the field. New York split one of those 2 tight ends out wide to get him matched up with the defensive back, which forced the linebackers to handle Nabers coming from the backfield. He dodges contact to get over the second level defenders on this sail route, and Daniel Jones hits him for a gain of 15 yards. But Nabers isn't moved around so much because he needs to be. Sure, the offense gives him favorable looks by lining him up all over the formation. Every offense with a game-breaking receiver does that. But Nabers can play the X too. Through 4 games, 74 of his 149 routes have come from an isolated X alignment, according to Sports Info Solutions. And the reason why Nabers isn't limited to a Z or slot role is because he can win against press coverage. This was one of the biggest concerns with Nabers coming out of college. Not necessarily because he struggled against press at LSU, mostly because he's built more like a Z than an X. But he's been great against press in the league without being physically dominant. Here the Giants are facing 3rd and 8, and Nabers is lined up as the isolated X receiver in a 3-by-1 formation. Dallas is in a quarter-half coverage, which is cover 4 to the strong side up top, and cover 2 to the weak side where Nabers is lined up. The coverage tells Trevon Diggs to line up on the line of scrimmage in press coverage on Nabers, and to hit Nabers with a jam, disrupting the timing of his route. Diggs' pre-snap stance here tells Nabers that a jam is coming, so he's prepared for it. When Diggs shoots his hands, Nabers connects on a club swim combo to win instantly off the line. That allows for separation over the middle while maintaining the rhythm of the concept, but Daniel Jones never looks his way. Here, in Week 3 against Cleveland, Nabers is aligned in the slot at the top of your screen, again facing press man coverage. The Giants called a slot fade smash concept that tells Nabers to run the fade one-on-one with the slot corner, Greg Newsome. Look at the release from Nabers here. He closes the gap between himself and Newsome without declaring the direction of his release. Then he drops his inside shoulder on an outside release and fights through contact with his inside arm. When Newsome reaches out to make contact, he has no surface to target. The punch lands on Nabers' back, so it doesn't impede his vertical momentum at all. From there, he's gone if Daniel Jones can hit him in stride. Despite being slightly undersized for an X receiver, Nabers wins off the line of scrimmage in the same way that undersized edge rushers beat offensive tackles. Von Miller has built a career off of the move that Nabers used to beat Greg Newsome off the line on that last play. On this play, for example, Miller drops his inside shoulder to dodge the punch from the tight end, then does the same thing to avoid contact from the offensive tackle. Like Von Miller, Nabers is great at maneuvering his upper body and using his hands to avoid contact from opposing players. The league is quickly learning that Nabers can't be left on an island against press man, which is going to give him a lot more free releases off the line of scrimmage. The ability to beat press coverage is the requisite trait to being a complete receiver in this league. When defenses don't fear a receiver's ability to win at the line of scrimmage, that receiver is limited to designs that give him free releases. Nabers is not in that category. There's nuance to the way he runs routes, too. Take a look at this play from the end of the first half against Cleveland. New York sends Wan'Dale Robinson in motion from the field side to the boundary side, which prompts a rock and roll motion response from the defense. The low safety rotates to the post, and the high safety rotates to the slot with Robinson. New York calls a slant-flat combination, which tells Nabers to run the 5-step slant and Robinson to run the flat route. Cleveland's trap 2 coverage to that side tells the wide corner to play the flat, which puts the safety, Rodney McLeod, on Nabers. Post-snap, Nabers is quick to identify the man responsible for him, and he does a great job of pushing McLeod's leverage. McLeod has heavy inside leverage here, which isn't ideal for Nabers because he's running an inside breaking route, so he pushes that leverage by taking an inside stem. That forces McLeod to reduce his inside leverage and open his hips toward the sideline in preparation for an outside breaking route. Once McLeod opens his hips, Nabers has him beat. He crosses McLeod's face with an explosive break, and Daniel Jones hits him for a 5-yard touchdown at the end of the half. Notice the speed at which Nabers ran this route too. He ran the stem portion of the route at about 50% speed, patiently waiting for McLeod to make himself vulnerable to the inside break. Then he exploded across McLeod's face once his hips were open to the sideline. This is really cool stuff to see from a rookie. Nabers has the instincts as a route runner to put defensive backs out of position, and he has the athletic traits to exploit that positioning at the break. That combination was on full display on his other touchdown in that Week 3 game against Cleveland. Nabers is lined up at the top of your screen, isolated against Browns wide corner Martin Emerson. The concept tells Nabers to run a rounded corner route to the back pylon with an inside release, but that's a tough route to run against a defensive back with a couple yards of cushion. Watch how Nabers closes that gap before he declares the inside release. He maintains the two-way go until he's right in Emerson's face. Then he drops his inside shoulder to avoid contact. Once he declares that inside release, he bends to the back pylon so efficiently. This is what scouts mean when they say a prospect has ankle flexibility. And this is why Nabers is so dangerous in the low red zone. When he's left one-on-one on the outside, it's only a matter of time before he separates. He's just too good of an athlete. He demands a true double or bracket coverage, which forces the defense to be more vanilla with their pre-snap looks and leave everybody else one-on-one. That athletic ability shows up after the catch too. Nabers is great at efficiently transitioning from pre-catch to post-catch, which can be the difference in making the nearest defender miss. I apologize for the picture quality here. Some of the sideline angle clips from this Week 2 game are pixelated for some reason, but you can still see the effect of Nabers' transition at the catch point. He's running a quick inbreaker against off coverage at the top of your screen, and while the ball is in the air, he gets off the ground so that when he makes the catch, he can explode in the other direction to make the defender miss. Nabers did this twice against Washington, and I'm sure we'll see it more as the season continues. There's been a lot of talk about his drops, especially because 2 of them have come in very high leverage situations. One was on a 4th down late in the 4th quarter of a tie game against Washington that directly led to a Giants loss. Another was on 4th down on Thursday night in Week 4. Pro Football Focus didn't call this one a drop, and I wouldn't call it one either because this is a really tough ball to catch, but it got a lot of attention because it happened in a high leverage situation in a primetime game. Even if you do count that one against Dallas as a 3rd drop, Nabers has a drop rate of about 8% on catchable targets. That's slightly higher than you'd like it to be, but it's not worth panicking over. Guys like Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, and Mike Evans all have a higher drop rate through 4 games, according to PFF. It's way too early to say that Nabers has a drop issue, especially because he didn't in college. Daniel Jones' days in New York are numbered, but that isn't such a tragedy because the Giants are going to be able to draft their new franchise quarterback and immediately surround him with a franchise left tackle in Andrew Thomas and a franchise receiver in Malik Nabers. That's a valuable combination that young quarterbacks almost never get from day one. There might be some more rough Sundays for Giants fans this season, but there is a lot to look forward to. And in the meantime, watching Malik Nabers play football isn't so bad. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you liked what you saw today, show some support with a like and a subscription to the channel. Anything you guys can do to help me continue making these videos means so much. But that's all I've got for today. So until next time, take care.